All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today's guest is Chief Mike McCoy. He has had over 45 years on the job, and during his tenure, he was a president for the Illinois Sheriff Association, and he was also president for the FBI National Academy. So I'm really excited to have Chief Mike McCoy on today's podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm excited. This is a great opportunity and nice to meet you. And I'm excited about this.
It's so nice to meet you. And we talked a little bit beforehand, and you have been on the job for a very long time, a really impressive career. And I would love to give some context into the last 45 years.
Sure.
Why law enforcement? How did you get into this profession? And what did those 45 years look like for you?
That's a great question. I right out of high school, I went to the Air Force, and I got out as a registered X-ray technician, working at a hospital in a little town in middle of Illinois. And the guy who drove the ambulance was a coroner and also a police commissioner. And I had just turned 21. And he came to me and he says, "Have you ever thought about becoming a cop?" Well, what every 21-year-old kid, first thing you do is you laugh, because it's either, go to jail or put people in jail. You got to juggle. And I had a lot of friends that were cops back in Peoria, which was about a town about 40 miles from there. And I lived in Peoria. I grew up there. And I said, well, I'd be interested. So I started at like 21 years and 3 months in a little town called Beardstown as a third shift patrol officer. With no training, no nothing, put in a car and had a gun and said, there you go. So
Really?
please.
That's so interesting. So you did not set out to be in law enforcement at all. Someone
No.
just looked at you one day, said, "Do you want to be a cop?" And you're like, "Sure." And they threw you in a cop car.
Yeah, he said, I like your personality. You talk to people, you're friendly, and that's what we need. And are you interested? I said, yeah. So I started there and worked in Beardstown for a little over a year. Went to Peoria, worked in the jail, the sheriff's office. Then after about 3 months, I was promoted to deputy and worked on a street, detective sergeant. And I was lucky enough to go to the FBI Academy, and I got out, and I was a 29-year-old police chief at Peoria Heights, Illinois.
Wow.
Got recruited to the public sector for a little bit, and then went back to sheriff's office in 1994 as a chief deputy. And then in 2002 to 2017, I was the sheriff of Peoria County. And now from 17 to now, I came to Washington, Illinois.
That's amazing. So you were first chief before you were 30 years old.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, because I think about like when I was 29, I wouldn't say I was a wreck, but that's a lot of responsibility for someone in their 20s. Tell me, so when you first started, what did wellness look like? Was there even talk about wellness? Was there wellness programming? Was there a focus on it? What did it look like when you first started?
Yeah, there was nothing. There was no subsidizing by the town or the community for wellness. I think that in some ways police earned the reputation of the donut shop guy, because there was a lot of donut shop guys. And the idea of being in shape and taking care of yourself. Obviously, there were the guys that did that, but there wasn't any focus on it as there is today. Just none.
And what do you think that did? Do you think that impacted the way that people performed, the way that they handled stress, like the lack of resources? What do you think that did over time?
Yeah, I think it's really, I think people have understood. The police have understood, partially because of the education we've been given, and partially out of the common sense part of it, where it's a lot easier as a policeman to be wrestling with people or doing your job or chasing people if you're in shape, as compared to having a tough time to get out of the squad car to even walk or to go upstairs. And I think that there's been a focus on that as far as wellness too. The sick days for police missing work has dropped over the years. It continues to drop, and that can be, I think, attributed to the wellness that most people see. In my own case, I went from 200 and about 60 pounds down to 175, running 10 miles a day because it was important, because you had to do that as time has come. And now it's even more important. And communities like ours are fortunate enough to have wellness programs that are partially subsidized by the city, not only for wellness classes, but also for time you want to spend in the gym or working out.
And I love how you said that it was mandatory or very important for the performance on the job, because I think that a lot of times when we're talking about wellness, we don't really talk about that, or maybe that's not really a conversation right now. It's like, how do we, handle things that happen on the job, off the job, if that makes sense. It's like, how do we, deal with cumulative stress but this idea of like, hey, like wellness is important for your physical and mental performance on the job, I think is a really good thing to say. And I have heard from other leaders that that's how it was. It was like, maybe you guys didn't talk about wellness, but it was always something that was there and kind of understood that was important.
Yeah, I think people understood it was important, but I don't think that people a lot of years ago understood. They think it's important, but they know it's important, but they don't want to do anything about the importance because it's a commitment. It's a time, energy, and effort commitment. And as anything, if you're willing to do the job to the best of your ability, you got to put in the time, effort, and energy to do it. And I think nowadays, if I go downstairs to my place for my guys, there is nobody downstairs here that looks anything like most of the people that I was the sheriff with 20 years ago, 25 years ago. If you would line the people up, you would think they're two different jobs, two different occupations.
Interesting. So in what context do you think that they were more fit before or now?
Oh, now, by now, a lot.
Now, okay.
The guys now, they go to the job, they talk about fitness, they talk about, who's going to go to this run this weekend, who's going to go to this Ironman, who's going to go to this Mutter, whatever the things are, is a conversation that, 25 years ago just wasn't being had. And, the guys meeting after work and before work to go to the gym to hold each other accountable are things that a long time ago was very seldom. And I shouldn't say never, but very seldom was talked about. And now I think the realization and the importance that police administration puts on people, and that goes along with what do you do with the city? If your police department, the accidents are down and the health is up, that's good for them when they go out and they're shopping for their insurance. So we understand it as leaders, and I think the guys understand it also. Guys and ladies at work understand it also.
I understand. So it sounds to me like you really have an active agency that really prioritizes physical fitness. And I know that you talked about how running was something that you did for your own physical wellness and to stay in shape. What other things have you done over the last 45 years to prioritize your personal wellness?
Well, I think that you can go to the physical wellness part, and then you can also go to the mental wellness part. Now with EPAs, I think police administrators and whatever kind of an EPA you have, you understand the importance of somebody being physically fit to do the job. That's just important in today's activity for a policeman. And then just as important, if not more important, is the mental wellness, that you go out there with the right mind every day. It's pretty good because here we have wellness opportunities every month, a lunch and learn every month that every employee can go to for an hour. And they have different speakers. And that's tremendous because 99% of those talks are compared about the mental wellness. And so it's, I think the difference is outstanding, I guess is the best word, because of the importance.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think physical and mental wellness do go hand in hand. I've been, in this wellness space now for 8 years, and we talked about this a little bit. Like, definitely have not been in this space as long as you have, but the last 8 years, and I'm sure you can agree, even the last, 8 to 10 years, wellness has evolved so much over time. And I do think that there is more of this emphasis on mental health, which is great. The more resources and the more education, then the more normal it is and the less stigmatized it is to reach for resources if and when you need them.
Yeah, I think that there aren't very many people that are still doing this at my age, but I think that the people that grew up and we were in a good place. In the 80s, the running craze was starting, and people started doing all the running, and that got to be popular. And I think as they developed into the physical part of it, then I think the mental part of it started coming along. They started having grief groups and then police organizations that if you have a fatality or something in your apartment, people are, in some cases like here, if something major happens, we have mandatory mental health screenings, afterwards with the guys and the ladies to go through. And I think it works hand in hand. And even I think the more the time goes on, the more emphasis being placed, not more than physical, but the more emphasis on the mental aspect is being placed. And that's really important. I like it to go downstairs and the people are laughing and they're joking around and they're smiling and they're talking about things and they're getting along, as compared to, sometimes you go into a squad room and people are all serious and everybody's grumpy and, you can tell there's something wrong. But I think to have the mental well-being, the physical well-being going hand in hand makes for a solid atmosphere for policing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, and I've always said this, there are some people who still maybe are resistant to the idea of mental wellness. And I think that that's okay. It takes time, and not everyone's going to have the same receptiveness, as maybe the person next to them. And so I've always said, if someone's a little bit maybe hesitant or resistant to the idea of mental health stuff, start with the physical, because that leads to the mental. And we know that if you feel better physically, you're going to feel better mentally. And when you feel better mentally, you're more likely to do things that make you feel better physically. So it's kind of this like snowball effect. But I do think, starting somewhere, even if it's start with the physical and then let that lead into the mental, like you said, like that's kind of what happened organically was, the fitness part of it was the first thing. And then that led into the, prioritizing of the mental health.
Sometimes it's hard. I was one of the people that had to be shown the importance. I was a young sheriff, and the guy that I had actually recruited to be on the sheriff's office got killed one night in the line of duty. And they have the grief groups that came and talked to everybody, and I didn't do it. And finally, one day, there's a knock on the door, and there were two people there, and they said, "Guess what? Today's your turn. Whether you want to listen or not, you're going to listen." And that was a turning point for me. I realized how vitally important it is, and it doesn't have to be, but somebody get hurt, something on a department that the command staff needs to understand the importance of the mental well-being of the guys. And it took a slap in the face for me to understand it. And now I understand it very well.
And do you think that, kind of forceful, you're going to listen no matter what. Do you think that moment changed the way that you now lead your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I knew that our guys were going through it, and they talked about it, and they said, do you want to schedule time? I said, no, I'm good. I'm the sheriff. I'm too cool. I don't need to go through all that stuff. And then once you go through it and you understand, and you start doing more to educate yourself as an administrator of a department, I think you understand the importance of it, and not only for the officers, but for the office staff, for your lab technicians, for everybody to understand that, that's a huge component of going to work. If you're happy, if you're mentally sound, I think if you're happy with yourself and you're going to work every day, it makes a big difference in how you do your job, how you perform your job. And it took some force to get me there, and now I'm a proponent.
And there's a few things that you said in there that I thought were really fascinating. And just one, the fact that you were able to say, you know what, like I was one of those people who thought I was too cool for school and didn't need it. And then I had like a reality check and now I recognize the importance. I think having that authenticity and that vulnerability to say like, you know what, like I really didn't before, but now I do. And here's why. I think that that is really a powerful message because I do think that, you know, it is important for leadership to, see the importance of wellness for themselves and for their agency. And a lot of times, a lot of the conversations I have is that it's lonely at the top. And a lot of individuals like yourself who are, sheriffs or chiefs are like, well, I don't really have anywhere to go, or I can't show emotion, or I can't let this affect me because I am the person at the top. But to say, hey, no, like my wellness is really important, and so is everybody else's, I think is such a powerful message for you to share, not only to, people underneath of you, but other leaders as well.
Yeah, I think, the day about, you can't expect other people to do it if you're not willing to do it. And sometimes there are people that drew lines. And I drew some lines, I think, in the past about, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to qualify. I don't need to go to the lunch and learns. I don't need to do that. And I'm around here now and at the sheriff's office where I came from, people are well adjusted to that now. They want to go learn about mental health and they want to learn about their wellness. And that transcends into how we treat people, on a call. If you go on a call and you're in a good mood and you feel good and you know why you're there, it helps you recognize the people that you're dealing with. Because, most of the time we don't deal with people that are really excited to see us,
Right.
And so if we can use some of our knowledge about mental health and well-being to incorporate how we handle their problems or the problems that are affecting us, I think it makes a big difference in a positive way.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And my question to you is, how much, because it sounds to me like you have a really good culture of wellness within your organization, and it is a high priority. How much do you think, or how important do you think it is that that comes from you or comes from leadership? Do you think that wellness should start at the top, or do you think that it goes both ways and it's a partnership? How do you view?
Yeah, I think most of the police leaders talking about police, I think most of the police leaders now are people that have grown up in a culture of it's important. And I think that most of the younger chiefs and the younger sheriffs understand because, they grew up with it and the amount of effort that advertising plays on mental and physical wellness now on your commercials, on everything on TV. And, even if you see on a TV show, if you see a police show on TV, every one of them has a scene where somebody's running or somebody's shooting or somebody's in a room with somebody. And I think that the leadership, almost to the person, I would say, through the United States, realizes the importance of that balance and how it affects not only themselves, but the people they deal with and their home life.
I love that you said in their home life, because that was the thing that I was thinking about as you're saying this is like, it affects everything.
Yeah.
It affects your performance on the job and off the job. And one of the big conversations that I've had a lot is home life. We talk about the work environment and, the requirements of the job and how important it is for you to be alert and to, make positive, quick decisions and to treat people, on the job with respect and dignity and all these things. But we also know that it can affect your home life if you're not, preparing for that. And so, we've talked about like an emphasis on home wellness and how important it is to have those resources so that you can offload the stress and you can make sure that the job doesn't impact what you have at home.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm the poster boy for that. I left the the sheriff's office with 200 employees and a jail of 500 people, and literally working 7 days a week, 2 or 3 calls a night. And when the 30 years came, I was smart enough to have a partner that was realized, as I did, that to stay in the career and do what you like to do, but scale back the stress level is important. And like I said, I'm the poster boy for that. To come to a department as positive this is important.
To me, it seems like to last 45 years on the job, one, you must love it. And two, you must have really taken care of yourself mentally and physically, because that's a long time and you don't have to be here. You had the opportunity to retire a while ago. I would love to hear some of the things. I know that you said lunch and learns and you do post-critical incident debriefs. And what are some of maybe the top resources that you have found to be the most successful within your agency when it comes to wellness?
No, I think one of the things here is that it took us a little while, but the city now will pay for a gym membership if you're going to make so many commitments a week. And here it's 4 times a week. If you sign in at the gym, they're going to pay for your gym membership up to a certain amount of money, which I think is huge. The lunch and learns and the EPAs that we have offered now, and the EPAs not only cover police subjects, but if I want to talk about my home life or my relationship with other people here, my relationship at home, you can go and those are covered. And for people here, it's free. You don't have to pay. And I think policemen aren't the highest paid people in the world, as we all know, but we're okay. But when you can go and talk to people or put yourself on the line with people and open up, and it's going to help you physically and mentally, and you can do it for free. You've got to. Most people understand the importance of that, I think, and for us at this department, that's a big deal. And I think in most places through contracts, in our contracts, we have a clause in here where it can be enforced. Sometimes it can be forced. And, we've never had to do it. If you go to a guy and say, hey, look, you're having a bad week, you're having a bad month. We all know it. You need to talk to somebody. You need to do something about it. We've never had to force anybody to do it, just having the conversation with them because they know the opportunities they have. Makes a big difference. I think it makes a huge difference. And I think it lends some credibility to the command staff too. When you have, if you don't like somebody, you're not going to say anything to them, and you say, hey, I'm here talking to you because I love you. I want you to do a good job. I want you to be happy at home as well at work. And for them to know that's true on a department that only has, 40 people like me, that's a big deal. I think it becomes a little more personal on the larger departments where the command structure is a little lower that gets involved. But here, when we can see it every day, it's really important.
I love that. One, you have resources that you're saying are free to the employees and that they know that they can take advantage of it. But it also sounds like you genuinely care about everyone and you're having those conversations and they know that they have the support from command staff, which I think, like you said, is huge, especially right now, because we know that all across the country, there are so many agencies that are struggling with recruitment and retention. And that's kind of like a buzz subject right now, right? Because a lot of people are struggling to not only retain their staff, but to hire, new recruits. And so how much do you think having that supportive environment and prioritizing wellness has helped you to retain your staff and to, entice new employees to come in?
Well, here in the Midwest, in Illinois, a lot of departments, not a lot, a lot of departments have offered incentives for hiring, $5,000 up to $20,000. We don't do that. We don't. And a lot of places, are saying, look, we're 20 guys down, we're 10 guys down, we're 3 guys down. We're at full staff and we have a waiting list. And I think the good part about it is that we have people that understand the importance of both the physical wellness and the mental wellness here. And I think when you go to someone, our last 5 hires have been lateral hires, last 4 hires have been lateral hires from people from other departments, some of them bigger than ours, that want to come to a place. I think that we really do care about the people. We have we run a pretty tight ship, but I don't think people care about running a tight ship because they know what's expected of them, and they know what's expected of them physically and mentally. And I think that plays a real advantage in helping hire people because, not to have to go out on the TV or the social media and say, hey, we're down 10 guys. Well, why are you down 10 guys? What keeps them here? Other than in Illinois is a little anomaly with the Safety Act and things like that. But to continue to be full staff in spite of the Safety Act and other things that have happened, I think people are catching up now. People are understanding the importance of not only it being a job as a police officer, but it's being a job for the community too. And people are understanding that a lot more, I think. And that's because of the education of people that do like what you do, and the people in the social services being our friends now. We used to stick away. Police didn't deal with social services a long time ago. And now to have them all in our corner and all to be on the same team is a big deal. And I think that really helps in hiring and retention. Some people are going to come to be a policeman and they're going to always shop for the better job, which is good. I'm here. So I knew that I had to get out before I went crazy. So, it's good.
You are the first person I've talked to that is like, and I loved your smile when you were saying it. You're like, we have a waiting list. Like, we're full staff, and we have a waiting list. And I think that's a testament to a few things. Obviously, the culture that you've created, and word spreads. People will know what agencies are really taking care of them. But I also think, and this is true to a lot of conversations we're having about like the younger or like newer generation, about how not everyone, and I think a lot more people, are not necessarily prioritizing money anymore. That's not number one. It's like, what is the agency going to do to make sure that I'm set up for success? And I think that, some people will be motivated by finances for sure. And I think everyone's motivated by different things. But I do think that there are more people now who are really looking for agencies who are going to, create a safe environment for them to, be able to thrive both physically and mentally on the job.
Yeah, I think the young people now that are coming around understand that family is important. You get a 22 or 25-year-old man or woman that come here and they might have 1 or 2 kids at home, and it's important to spend time with them. And it's something that we really spent a lot of time here talking about. Do we want guys to work 12-hour days, 3 days a week? No. 12 hours, I don't believe that's a long time to be on duty as a policeman. 3 days a week, you're missing what's going on over half the time in your community. So we've stuck with the 8-hour days, and we've tried to realize that taking your vacation is important. Your personal days are important. And, personal days, almost everybody has personal days now. All you got to do is call and say, I need a personal day. I'm not coming in, or can I take tomorrow off? I got to do this. And I think, sometimes you have to realize as an administrator that those are important things. If you can take care of one guy, however you treat him is going to spread like wildfire. And if you don't treat him right, then you're not going to get the respect, or the next guy's not going to want to come to you and ask that, or lady's not going to come to you to ask that. And for here, I think we found it's important to listen and to do everything we can to ensure that people are safe. I haven't got to the 12-hour days yet because I don't think that's good for anybody. But being able to do some remote work for education for here, people being able to do some of their training at home on their computers and stuff like that. I think it's important to incorporate all that. And try to get better. I wouldn't be a very good young cop now, so it's good.
No, I love it. And everything that you're saying, I'm like shaking my head. I agree with you. And I think that, having that balance and making sure that, your life outside of the job is also a priority and that you have the opportunity to be with your family and your friends and, take vacations and, have that separate part. There are so many agencies that I talk to all across the country that really struggle with creating a culture of wellness and getting the buy-in, whether that's from command staff or from their employees. If there's someone in leadership who falls into that category, who's listening right now, that is maybe in the infancy stages or really struggling to create that culture, what advice would you give to them? What is like the secret or maybe the first step that you would take when it comes to building a wellness program and a culture of wellness?
I think the first step is for you as the leader to incorporate into your command staff the importance of it. And I think that most people are headed that way now. They're starting to understand. I think it's a little slower than some of us wish, but I think you still have to deal with city councils and county boards and commissions, and and sometimes spending money for these things is not easy. When we're all trying to keep our new cars and to keep our radar equipment up and our body cams going and the things that maybe 15 years ago you didn't have to spend money on are now there, and to balance that with the money that's allocated. But I think for me it's been easier because I think people know that that's what I do. And I know they know that that's what most of the command staff does. And I think that, if you have the middle command staff buying in and the guys can see the sergeants and the lieutenants going to lunch and learns and not being afraid to call the EAP and promoting that, because we all know what it's like in a squadron. The 20 minutes or 15 minutes before it starts, they're all talking and they meet each other for lunch and they talk about what's going on and not to shy away as a leader from it, to embrace it. Like I said, I had to be beat over the head. And once you're beat over the head and you understand it, then I think it's easier to promote down through the ranks and then to offer that, because the kids we're getting now are smart kids that are coming into police work. They're smart, they're intelligent, and I think they understand the importance far more than I did when I was a young officer.
Thank you. It does. I think that was great. Thank you very much. Two last questions for you before we wrap up. 45 years ago, when you were introduced to this job, you were like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Sure. And now you've had a successful long career. And one of the conversations that comes up a lot is your why and how your why might change throughout the trajectory of your career. You right now today do not have to be here, but you choose to be here. So what is your why right now? What is keeping you here? Why is it important for you to still be here in this career?
Well, first of all, I'm not a very good at, it's even sort of hard to sit still this long to have a conversation for me. I'm one of those type A plus people that want to be able to do things. But I think I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of changes in my time. And I can actually say that far more of them have been good than have been even neutral or negative. And I like the idea of being able to have a positive impact on a community. 30 years on the sheriff's office and 15 years as a sheriff, and then to come here as a chief. And I think that people understand that if we want to make things better. And I think most people now that are in the command positions in police departments, fire departments, EMT departments, are people that have made it up and can see that attitudes of their employees are huge. And when you can make a happy guy or a happy lady go to work, that's going to be a huge impact on what they do. And I think people that do that and embrace that are going to be far successful than those that are going to be a dictator or fight with City Hall.
One of my favorite things about talking to individuals like yourself, the why is always in service. It's always like, I want to make a positive impact for other people. I want to help other people. And I think that that's always, to me, so inspiring that, you're here because you want to be here and because you want to help other people and you want to make a positive impact. And I think that that's so inspiring and powerful. And there aren't a lot of careers where you talk to people who have that like deep desire to be in service of others.
Yeah, I think most people want things to be good. They want things to be positive. And I think the people that are in administration and in police work understand that their job is making things better. We all want a better life. We want a better community. We want people to come to our community. We want our guys to be happy. We want the community to be happy. And at the same time, realizing that there's a certain segment out there that don't share those feelings. And if we have the ability to convert some of them, whether they want to be converted or not, to being a positive part of the community, I think is something that most people believe and want to happen also, but just don't want to do it to the extent that some of us do.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I do think that the majority want everything to be good and positive, 100%.
Yep.
My last question for you before we wrap, what words of advice would you give to someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known or something that you would have listened to that would have helped you along when it comes to wellness.
Sure. I think that to pay attention to the mental part of it as well as the physical part of it. Going to the gym is good, but having a positive home life is just as important, if not more important than what you do in the gym every day or what I do around the track every night or what other people do, lift weights or whatever they do. That's important. But to me, to be able to come to work and smile and somebody smiling back when the chief and the command staff walks in and to be able to say hi in the hallways is important. To let people know that we're human too. We have families, we go to church, we play golf, we do other things, to let people know that's important, to let people see that part of us. Because I think most people see us as only good times, the only time that you really hear about police or things that we do is when it's negative. 90% of it's negative. But I can tell you that I think in police in general, it's serve and protect. We do a lot more service than we really do protecting. We do the service to the community. And I think the people that are coming up understand that. And I think policing and the EMTs, and the fire department and public services I don't agree with everybody that said it's on a downward swing. I personally believe it's on an upward swing because the people that are coming up are smart enough to know the importance of life balance. And I think that'll make our jobs a lot easier.
Thank you. Those are great words of advice. I appreciate your time so much. You have so much wisdom to share, and I am really grateful that you took the time today. I know you said you want to get up and go with your personality and not, sit here for an hour. So I really do appreciate it. Before we leave, if there's anything we missed, anything else that you want to say or go over, now is the chance. And
no, I just think that for the people that might be watching this that are trying to decide, what do I want to do? Do I the old thing of, do you want to go to jail or put people in jail? It's sort of a funny thing to say, but that's a true thing that I think most of us have thought about. And, policing is an honorable profession. Every profession every now and then gets some bad apples, weed them out and continue to if you want to be the police officer, you want to be a deputy sheriff, an EMT, a firefighter, for gosh sakes, pursue it, because because it's a great job to have. And in most communities, far more yes than no's, the community embraces what you do. And so we need good people.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Thanks, Paige.
Of course.